If everybody could take their seat, we'll get started in a few minutes. Thank you. Wow. Welcome, everybody. On behalf of Martha's 4 children, her 6 grandchildren, and her 6 great-grandchildren, we welcome you to the celebration of life for Martha Pace Gresham. We would like to thank Mira Costa College, Tori Fishinger, for hosting this memorial. As you know, Martha was a board member for over 30 years and a past president of Mira Costa College Foundation, which provides scholarships for students. Trying to sum up my mom's 94 years of life was an insurmountable task for me. My mom did so many amazing things. She was born during the Depression in Lee's Summit, Missouri, and later became a well-respected leader in the North County, San Diego. My mom was the last cousin of her generation, 29 cousins. My mom was happily married to my father, Bud, for 54 years. Little known fact, they met at Mira Costa College in Oceanside. She raised 4 talented kids and studied and passed the California test to become a state licensed bio-analyst. And I've been talking to a lot of people in the laboratory today. It's been quite fun to catch up. After that, my mom ran the Encinitas Medical Center Laboratory for 25 years. Which later became the Scripps Memorial Hospital Encinitas. She did this in the 70s when a woman in charge was not accepted like it is today. Mom met so many people at the lab that whenever I went to the store with her, remember going to stores? You used to walk into their stores. I'd always plan an extra 15 minutes because she always knew somebody. She always knew their name, a story, or an anecdote about that person. It was a truly remarkable talent that she had. My mom was always ahead of the curve in technology. Her computers were upgraded a long time before mine were. Mine were like years old. One day, my mom called me, and she said she got something called email. And I told her, look, I was in the IT business, and that email is going absolutely nowhere, Mom. Just delete that account. Boy, was I wrong. Mom loved staying on the cutting edge. She had her Apple Watch, her phones that were upgraded every time a new phone came out, or 5 or 6 remotes in front of her TV set. She had it all. As many of you know, my mom was a gifted needle pointer. She made beautiful handcrafted items. Many decorate our homes today. She made Christmas stockings, and I hope each of you had a chance to go back and look at those and hanging in the back. Those are in our homes every Christmas, hanging by our fireplace. So when a new family member through marriage came into the family, the gossip behind the scenes and the rumor was like, well, the first was only accepted into the family when Martha made you a stocking. And they took a long time to make. They took months and months. And I remember my wife, Christina Hall, sweating it out until hers finally came. And it was beautiful. When my mom was mad, boy, you knew it. You know, like the time I used like her brand new bath towels to wipe the grease off my bicycle chain. I don't know. I don't know. But when she was mad, she would shriek your first and middle names. And the last syllable of your middle name went up about 100 decibels. And it just hung in the air, but seemed like forever. So my middle name being Clifford would sound something like John Clifford. When you heard that, you got your tail end into where she was as fast as you could, because every second delay, it was exponential in the punishment that you got. So you wanted to get in as quick as possible. My brothers and sisters can contest that they heard that name quite a bit throughout our life. John Clifford. That's right. You did write that. Another story I'd like to share is when my dad got a sailboat. Mom, the whole family got involved. You're going to hear some sailing stories today from people. We got involved in sailing and racing in Oceanside. We met many lifelong friends, some of those who are here today. And Mom, for many years, we made lifelong friends. She embroidered cruise shirts for us and made these amazing tuna fish sandwiches, which I think I just heard about these tuna fish sandwiches last month that we serve on board the boat, and people loved them. When we spent the night on the boat, she would make dinner, and we'd all sit around the table, and we'd just be like at home. She'd make that boat feel just like home. We had many adventures on the boat, and her sons and daughter became lifelong sailors. And in fact, I raced my Elijo with my granddaughter, her great granddaughter, several times this summer. She's 5 years old, so she's been out of it. My mom, for many years, supported and led many heritage organizations. Overall count is somewhere in the 15 number. Her involvement parlayed into her love of genealogy. Here are just a few of the organizations she was involved with and held titles in. A regent of the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, governor of the first California company, Jamestowne Society, president, San Diego County Daughters of Utah Pioneers, president, San Diego Chapter, United States Daughters of 1812, president, Community Care for Adults, which focused on Alzheimer's care in Oceanside, California. She was a busy, busy woman, but she always had time to talk. In closing, my mom always inspired me throughout my life and made an indelible mark on me. She knew me better than I knew myself. She helped me build a meaningful life. I believe much of which I've achieved today is because of her gentle guidance. I miss my mom every day, and I'm so grateful to have had her for a moment. Next is my niece and goddaughter, Virginia DeCosta.
I'm a short one, family. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Virginia Costa. So lucky to have been a part of this granddaughter. I thank you all so much for being here, and I really enjoy it. If you could join me in this prayer written by Martha's sister-in-law, who's joining us via Zoom, Gail, Pace. Dear God, we are so grateful for your presence with us today. We know our sister Martha is now in your care. We especially thank you for having blessed our lives with her presence here on earth. And we look forward to being reunited with her in eternity. Amen.
Gloria, Zinc, come on up.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to celebrate Mark. I've known Martha since October of '69, when I got hired at Scripps Memorial Hospital. I worked with Martha all that time until it became Scripps. She retired, and our small lab was really small. We had Bill, Carol, Pat, Nikki, Reese, Norma, and of course Martha. We all got along, we all had fun, and she was a great leader. She was my first boss. I learned a lot from her. I was replacing a girl called Teresa, and she was really sweet. I was taught how to draw blood on the job. That's never thought of or able to do now, never. Among other duties. Martha was taking Phil's place as he was retiring, and she was going to become our new manager. Martha ran a tight ship. She didn't take any below, and boy, you better attune to everything you did wrong. Martha was always good about the patient care because the patients came first. After we moved into the new lab and hired more people, she was always understanding and helping if you couldn't do something or something went wrong. Martha was famous for when you walked into the lab, 5 to 10 minutes, she comes up to you and says, "Can you come and see me in the office before you go home?" Now you had a whole 8-hour shift to work. Worried about if it was right or wrong or whatever she had in mind. You never knew. Martha had a great sense of humor and she had a very infectious laugh. You can hear her from the office that she sat in, clear out to the front. Martha loved all her kids and grandkids. She spoke about them a lot. And as the grandkids came along, she spoke about them. She loved Bud very much. Martha had class. She always looked her best, hair always up, and she always had her makeup that looked very nicely done. She spoke highly about Bud and how they enjoyed sailing. And I'll never forget the time that she got new glasses and she fell and busted her elbow. And she announced that so that she had to have surgery, and everybody did. I have fun memories of the Christmas parties. When Martha sent out her Christmas letters, which were every year, they were beautifully done. All the kids had done something, everybody had advanced or whatever. A picture was always fun to get every time. Always at the end, it's a sign, "Love Martha." Martha lived around the block from me, and we both shopped at Safeway, which was right across from the hospital. And we would bump into each other going around the corner, and we'd take up a full aisle just talking. There's Mark's here, we're talking away. 20 minutes, no less than 20 minutes. Always exciting. When Martha returned, there was a fun-packed party. Everybody was very sorry to see her go, and she was so happy when we had the party for her. She was my very first boss, and she taught me so much. She was an amazing person. She had a kind and gentle way about her, but as John said, don't cross her. Rest in peace, Martha. You were loved, and you're still missed. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. How's this bad? Can everyone hear me? Hey, everybody, I'm Peter Gresham. I'm Martha's grandson. and really happy to be here today sharing some memories of her. I grew up just down the road from Martha, and that means I got to spend a lot of time with her as a grandchild. And there's a couple things, I remember, and she was really an amazing grandmother. I remember the special toy drawer she had just for us in her kitchen. I remember every dinner having vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup. And I remember every Thanksgiving and Christmas getting to have, sparkling apple cider. And we spent every Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve at Black Martha's house. So it was really special. And then I got to see her as a father, as a great grandmother as well too. And she was just as amazing as a great grandmother she was as a grandmother. She always had a special trinket. She always had some fun little doodad whenever the kids came over. And I especially loved watching my daughter Gracie. Martha was teaching her to sew. So she would have a ton of patience. Gracie really, a lot of questions and things like that. And Martha just patiently explaining and showing her there. And it was really just beautiful to watch those two together start to form a relationship. When I was growing up, I also remember Martha always had a crossword. So she always had one. And then, one day I got old enough and I said, well, I'm going to try this crossword. And in that moment, I realized what an intellectual juggernaut Martha was. And I tried to come back a couple times and never really got more than, maybe one or two clues on the entire crossword. And, I don't think anybody else would be surprised by that because Martha was sharp as a tack. Really, really she was. And that sharpness didn't happen by accident. She religiously worked out with a personal trainer for much of the later part of her life, posting a personal best deadlift of 125 pounds and even becoming a part investor in a gym. And when she turned 90 years old, do you know what she asked me for her birthday party or for her birthday? A rowing machine. Give me a rowing machine. And when she fell and broke her hip a couple of years later, she said, hey, I can't use the rower anymore. Can you please switch it out for a stationary bike that I can use? And it was amazing to see Martha's discipline and consistency. I remember 6 months after she was in the hospital, having surgery on her broken hip, her personal trainer texted me, hey, Martha just walked up the largest set of stairs in her complex, and she did it twice. I can't really, for someone her age coming back from that injury, I can't overemphasize how impressive that is. And if I can, I'd like to leave you with one last image. Every time, when I was a kid, when we left Bud and Martha's house, they'd stand in the driveway, waving until you're out of sight. After Bud passed, Martha continued this tradition, standing outside no matter how late or cold it was, waving goodbye. My sister Whitney and I would make a game out of it, craning our necks out of the back window to see if she'd ever stop before we disappeared around the corner. And just like her workouts, she was amazingly consistent. So I'd like to leave you with the image of Bud and Martha standing together, waving down at all of us from heaven. And whenever you look up there, they'll always be waving down, full of love for all of you. Thank you.
A little better, you can hear me?
A little closer, a little closer.
I'm Jim McCall. I'm a longtime friend of Martha's. And I am so pleased and honored to be here today to say something about her because she was a very important part of my life for a number of reasons. I'm so glad we're having this event because it gives me a chance to say a few things that have been bouncing around in my heart for a while. Martha and I met about 20 some odd years ago when she sponsored me to join the Jamestowne Society. And that began a long and warm friendship. We discovered that we're distant cousins through Richard and Isabel Pace, who settled in Jamestown over 400 years ago, probably about 410, 15 years ago. And they, with their child, George, were probably among the earliest families to settle after the colony was founded. Probably were more than 200, 300 people there at the time. And one of the reasons they were there is I did study a little history on this, and I gather that Richard, having been a carpenter, London, where they were married in 1608, was recruited by the Virginia Company because a carpenter was very important for what they were doing in Virginia. And so I think he and Isabella were both recruited as employees, and therefore they became eligible to become ancient planters, which enabled them to get some of the first land grants in America in the colony several years later. And Martha was particularly proud of being a descendant of Isabella, because Isabella was a woman who uniquely owned land in her own right at that time, which was confirmed by the first elected representative legislature in the New World in 1619, which still exists. That legislature still exists, the Virginia General Assembly. Our Pace lines diverged in third or fourth generation and went on different ways, but we spent a lot of time comparing our lines and where they went. And it's obvious that the Paces were very much frontier people all through their generations, as they succeeded through going through the south and then coming out west. And of course, her family came to Utah, mine went south, Alabama, Mississippi, and Texas. But we have a good deal of time and intellectual stimulus researching and talking about that and discussing those lineages. And we also put on presentations. We talked to groups about our respective lines to groups around the country, and illustrated American history through those people, but flesh and blood to a meaning of the history. So we enjoyed sharing that platform for that. And we did a lot of that planning over those things in that nice house on Blue Sky Drive. How fondly I remember that house in the backyard and all the work that Charlotte put in the garden in the back and whatnot. Those are good memories to me. And but the biggest thing is that Martha took such great pride in her family. You guys here and the descendants, those who are not here, she kept me abreast all the time with emails and Instagram and Facebook and other things. She was really hot on the computer for those things and kept me abreast. And then, of course, she recruited Bruce to help me set up run the Jamestowne Society, First California Company's website, which was a very great success. And thanks a lot to Bruce for all his help in doing that. And of course, that catapulted me up to be the Society's national historian too. So that worked out well. So anyway, but I think the most important thing is for me is that she organized the First California Company of Jamestowne Societies in 1999. which has become one of the most active and well-respected chapters of the Jamestowne Society, that's been going strong for 25 years, and her imprint on that still exists today. And in doing so, she showed that she was an inspiring leader. As you heard earlier, she was an inspiration to people who worked around her, and that was true for her organizing and running the First California Company and Mira Costa Foundation, which I had firsthand look at all the time too. So that, plus her extraordinary range of friends, made her a very dear person and a valued friend for me. So above all, family meant the most to her. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
All one here. Hello, can you hear me? Sure. Yeah. Hey, everybody, my name is Will Gresham. Martha is my grandmother, and just really happy to be here to see all you people here celebrating her life. It just really means a lot to me. I also want to say thank you again to Mira Costa College for hosting this. I know how much this place meant to her, and I know it would mean a lot to her to know that we're here doing this right now. Growing up, I loved history. I was so into the things that young boys are into in history, knights and castles and battles and stuff like that, which, as we know as adults, is not most of history. I remember talking about that stuff with Martha, telling her about the books I was reading, the reports I was writing. And she always listened to me very kindly. And if you know Martha, as we all do, you would tell her something, an extraordinary fact or some really interesting thing you learned, and she'd sit there and think about it for a few seconds. And then she'd tell you a more accurate update about what happened. And say, well, I don't think it happened quite that way, honey, but maybe it went a little bit like this. And I remember one time I was very young, and it was almost humiliating that she had called me out on something I loved so much. But in that moment, I realized how much she knew, and that she was someone I could always talk about these kind of things, and she would really listen and understand. You know, it was really amazing, Gloria, to hear about the nursing parties, because for the first time in my life recently, I saw photos from some of those parties. And something that Martha taught me is when you look at those photos, when you read those stories, when you see those paintings of those times, to put yourself into that moment. What were the people thinking? What were they doing? And that was just such an incredible experience to see that and hear about that. Something that I got to do recently that I was just thinking about Martha the entire time was she really, of course, through the Jamestowne Society, taught us about our love for our ancestry, for all the people that came before us that led to us here. In fact, I remember when I was young and I told her I liked history, she would invite me to the Jamestown meetings. And I think I was, one of the few people that usually took her up on those requests. And I don't think that the demographic for the Jamestowne Society is 16-year-old boys, but I was there, no problem. It was so interesting to hear. And each one of those things just brought me closer and closer to learning about our history, our family members, and people that really connect to us that we could experience our lives through. And I just want to tell one story which happened recently, which was over the last 10, 12 years, she's really taught us more about Sir Thomas Gresham and some of our ancestors from that side. And the impact that they had in the world. And I was lucky enough about 2 months ago to go back to London after being truly interested and taught from Martha about this subject, and walk around the streets that these people walked through to see the signs and the places that they helped build. And I really felt while I was there, I just felt like I was able to be a conduit for Martha, because again, I could just text her pictures, I could send her videos, and she was right there responding, watching them, no, didn't need to ask anyone for help. And so I really felt like I got to share this experience with her. And sadly, I arrived in London about a day after she went into the hospital. But I felt lucky and privileged that while she was there recovering, I was able to just share all these things that I was seeing and experiencing with her, and that she could give me, oh, this is what this is, you should look more into this. Oh, I haven't seen this in so long, it's so great to be there again. And there was one particular video that I took of just a 5-minute video of me walking around Royal Exchange in London, which was built originally by Sir Thomas Gresham. And she has taught me so much about that and made me feel understand so much more about history through that. And I just felt so lucky that I could share that with her once again. Just another vision of that, seeing it just taking a stroll through London like it's nothing for her, you know? And something that I really, really appreciated that she sent back to me that day was I took one very zoomed in photo of this little thing on the top of the Royal Exchange, which is the golden Gresham grasshopper. And she told me, and, you know, I'm just so happy to see that again. Well, that's so cool. And so I feel lucky about all the time we were able to spend together, for all the love that she was able to give us, cousins, family members, that backyard that we all got to spend so much time in together, and that really defined our childhood. And again, I just want to say how much we all love Martha, how special she's been to us, and how amazing it is to see you all here. So thank you again, and thanks to everyone who's joined remotely too. And I love you, Martha.
Hello, everybody. My name is Courtney McDermott, and I am Martha's eldest granddaughter. As we gather here today, it feels especially poignant that Thanksgiving is just around the corner, a holiday that for our family will always be synonymous with Martha. Martha wasn't just the host of Thanksgiving, she was the heart of it. Her gravy, made from scratch with giblets and love, was legendary. But it wasn't just about the food, it was the way she turned the meal into a tradition. Every detail mattered to her, from the butter shaped like tiny turkeys to the thoughtful little gifts she placed at each place setting. She made sure everyone felt welcome and loved. Some of my best childhood and adult memories are of Thanksgiving at Martha's. The warmth of her home, the laughter around the table, the way she lit up when everyone was together. She was deeply family focused, and nothing made her happier than having us all in one place. And speaking of Thanksgiving, I have to share one of my favorite Thanksgiving stories. A few years ago, my husband Tim received what is arguably the most coveted gift a Gresham could get, a hand-stitched Christmas stocking made by Martha. And in our family, if you get a stocking, you know you're officially in. It's a big deal, as you've all heard. All of our stockings are holiday themed, snowflakes, reindeer, Santa, the usual. But Tim, being from Philadelphia, specifically requested an eagle on his stocking. And bless Martha's heart, she delivered. She stitched that eagle with pride, and Tim was over the moon. You might have seen a photo with Tim, Martha, and the infamous eagle stocking in our slideshow. Martha wanted to make sure Tim got exactly what he wanted, even if his theme didn't quite match the rest of ours. That's just one example of how Martha welcomed our significant others with open arms. She didn't just tolerate them, she loved them like she loved us. Whether it was remembering their favorite dessert, asking about their families, or stitching them into our traditions, quite literally, Martha made sure they felt like part of the family that they want. Martha taught us that love lives in the details, in the gravy, and the gifts, and the gathering. And though we'll miss her terribly, I know that every time we come together, especially around the holidays, her spirit will be right there with us. Her legacy lives on in so many ways, especially in the kitchen. She passed down her gravy-making secrets to the younger generation, and while we're doing our best, we sure hope we can live up to her standards. No pressure, right? Thank you, Martha, for the traditions, the love, and the memories. We missed you so much already.
Hello, I'm Whitney. I'm also Martha's granddaughter. And when I think about my grandmother Martha, one of the first words that comes to mind is inquisitive. She had such a love of learning about people and history and technology in the world, and anything new that caught her attention. When I went to graduate school, which she definitely encouraged me to do, I learned about the concept of being a lifelong learner. A lifelong learner is someone who never stops growing, someone who stays curious, open-minded, and is eager to understand more about the world and the people around them. And I remember thinking, that is Martha. Whether it was keeping up with the latest Apple tech, diving into a new audiobook, family genealogy and history, or learning about whatever we were interested in. She was always engaged and always curious. And some of my fondest memories are a sleepover at Bud and Martha's house. They would always put on the educational National Geographic animal hunts. It's the ones where the hyenas would take down a gazelle and rip it apart. I remember I always went to bed with nightmares. And then they also had a unique passion for Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance. We always watched it with them, and it made such an impact on us that actually later my brother and I went to see Michael Flatley's farewell tour, and it was incredible. It was good. And then there were the times when all the cousins were together. Like the day that we dressed Peter up as a girl, complete with makeup, a wig, soft moves. And we had him through the doorbell pretending to be our friend Susie. Martha and Bud played along the entire time, completely humoring us, and they never questioned where Peter went. That was them. They were always encouraging laughter and imagination. In the morning after those sleepovers, we'd wake up to big pancake breakfast, and we'd always learn the right way to flip a pancake and the right way to butter. Their home was always filled with warmth and love, and it was a place where everyone felt welcome. Martha had a gift for bringing people together. The family vacations she organized are proof of that. And even in her final days, she brought all of us together again to be with her, giving us the chance to share stories, to have special conversations, to say goodbye. Martha taught me so much. She taught me how to sew, how to knit and make jelly, but more importantly, she taught me how to believe in myself, to be an advocate for others, and how to be a strong and kind woman. Martha had a quiet strength. She was never the loudest in the room, but her presence was always the strongest. Steady, loving, and full of grace. And we'll miss her for the rest of our lives. And I also just wanted to draw your attention to something. So on the back of here, there's a quote. And one time I asked her, I said, Martha, what is the secret to happiness? And she said, something to do, someone to love, and something to look forward to.
Okay, thanks. I first met Martha in 1980 as we were working on our DAR membership applications. When Charlotte, her daughter, called, I'm getting teary. I love Whitney's story. Anyway, to ask if I would speak today, I immediately said, what an honor. Then hesitated. How could I ever do justice to such an amazing woman, friend, and mentor? Then I heard Martha's voice inside my head. When called upon, you answer yes. When a need arises, you say, I can do it. This was just one of the pieces of advice, or as we refer to them, Marthaisms, that have guided those of us whom she's mentored. There are so many organizations that she answered with a yes when called upon to help. She lived her words. I can share other Marthaisms with you today, thanks to Linda Unruh, who jotted Marthaisms down throughout their 20-year friendship. I wish I could say them with the same tone and matter-of-factness that Martha would. Regardless, perhaps you will recall having heard some of these pearls of guidance and wisdom. First, there's a calm voice unsettles more people than a loud one ever will. Or how about knowing when to be quiet is a skill that saves many friendships. And then there's grace under pressure is mostly good posture and faster comebacks. One of my favorites, don't be afraid to change your mind. Just make sure you change it to something better. Here's one that really resonates. You know, life is all about how you handle Plan B. And of course, there's the epitome of Martha. Charm opens doors, confidence keeps them from closing. Each of these Marthaisms keeps her memory alive. So my challenge to each of you who obviously cared about her, honor her memory when needed, when called upon to fill an office or a position or a committee or a board. In her memory, say, yes, I can do it. Thank you.
Wow. Hello. Hello. Oh, yeah, we gotta just take a little breath here. There's so much to think about. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Look at all these. This is wonderful to see all these people here today. 8 bells. 8 bells. That's the sailors' end of a watch. My name is Bruce Gresham, and I'm Martha's son. And one of the great things that my mother did and my father is get us involved in sailing, and you've heard that before. But when I was 14, Mom was looking for something that the whole family could do together besides chores. And so the next thing I knew, Charlotte and I were in this little sailboat going up and down Oceanside Harbor, and we liked it. And the sailing instructor was a friend of theirs from the Carlsbad Oceanside High School, Monty Yearly. And Monty ended up selling my folks a boat that you've heard about. And it was a small, there were 6 of us on this little 28-foot boat. I don't know how we got inside to eat dinner on it, but we did. And we learned how to sail. We learned together, we had to learn what was port, what was starboard. We started from nothing. We learned everything together. We learned navigation, we learned safety, and it was a real incredible experience. Monty introduced us to the Oceanside Yacht Club, and we joined right away. The Greshams were soon regulars down at the harbor. And there was lots of teenage kids our age at the yacht club. And Mom, of course, immediately met all of the other moms and dove right in. She volunteered and she organized. She got us all involved in racing. She organized potluck dinners for 100 people right away. It was so much fun. And as you heard, those people from that age became lifelong friends, and some of them are here today. And also that time that we spent there, got us involved in meeting new people around sailing. I met my wife through sailing, John, and his wife, and it just kept going. And we know people from all walks of life. Even the taquitos came from that area. So anyway, those times at the harbor, those were my halcyon days. So where am I going with all this? Where? I'm going. So take yourself back to the age of sail. There's square riggers. Maybe we're transporting colonists to Jamestowne. It's whatever it is, but these big sailing ships required crews, and the crews were broken up into watches. A watch was 4 hours, and you had to sail for 4 hours, then you sleep for 4. Sail for 4, sleep, and that was the rhythm that they got into. And they did not have Apple Watches back then, and so it was the ship's bells that kept track of the time. And sailboats like that are noisy. The masts creak, the sails flap, there's people shouting orders, and just hitting the bell one time, ding, that just wouldn't break through the chaos. So what they did is they used 2 bells, ding, ding, and you could hear that much better. The
first hour of the watch, they would ring 2 bells. Ding, ding. The second hour, they'd do 4 bells. Ding, 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 so on and so forth. 6 bells and 3, and at the end of the watch, it's 8 bells. And as a sailor, you can't wait for the end of the watch so that you can crawl into your warm bunk and relax, because it was very hard going. So they're always looking for 8 bells. So our dear Martha's watch lasted nearly a century. 14 years she was here. And her watch is over, and she worked hard. And you heard this before. She led, she inspired, she loved, she read, and this is what I'm really gonna miss. She listened. I'm ready. Take me to heaven. Those were her final wishes for us. She was in charge right to the end. She knew when it was time. And let's face it, through all of her diligent study of genealogy, she's going to know every cousin and have a little time. So now I'm going to ring the 8 bells. And when you hear the bells, forget your sorrows. And when you hear the bell, remember her laugh. When you hear the bells, remember the watch that you shared with her. After you hear the bells, we're going to take a moment of silence so you can just be with Martha. We really appreciate everybody coming and spending your afternoon with us and sharing these great stories. If you have some more to do, you can do it out back. And we invite you all to join us for a reception just out here in the patio of the amphitheater. Thank you, John, for getting us going. And thank you all our speakers. Marvelous job. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Not a lot of people. Thank
I've never seen, I remember